I'm Haley Cronquist. I'm the Associate Director here with the Long-Term Care Community Coalition. So just a little bit about us. LTCCC is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to improving care and quality of life for the elderly and adult disabled in long-term care settings. We do this through policy research and analysis, systems advocacy, public education, and we are also very lucky to be the home to 2 local long-term care ombudsman programs. And as always, we are so thankful for our ombudsmen. They are really boots on the ground. They provide us with so much information so that we can, to advocate effectively. So we're very thankful to our ombudsman. And today's program is called Transforming Nursing Home Advocacy, Lessons from New Jersey's Resident-Centered Approach. So joining us today is Elizabeth Spidell, and she is going to introduce the program today and the speakers. So I am going to pass it off to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Haley. We're going to start with the briefest of intros, which is the folks you can see here, as well as a few others. We are New Jersey's community engagement program from the Long-Term Care Ombudsman. My name is Elizabeth Spidell, and I'm the director of the community engagement program. And I'm going to pass it off to the square right below us, which has got the most people in it.
So I guess that's us. So I'm Ray. I'm at Princeton. I'm in Princeton, New Jersey, and we're targeting post-acute care. And I'm here with my prom date, Martha Robinson. Introduce yourself.
I'm Martha Robinson, and I came here about 1 year and 4 months ago.
Awesome. Thank you, Martha. And I'm going to ask Toddy to pop in. There she is. Introduce yourself, Toddy.
Hello, I'm Tatiana Saffron, and I'm also a part of the community engagement program, and I am happy to be here and happy to help.
Thank you so much. And Glenn, you're up for the intro.
I'm Glenn Osborne. I live in Paramus, a private long-term care facility, and I've been involved in this because I was part of the New Jersey Governor's Task Force. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with this organization to help supporting all residents in New Jersey.
Thanks, Glenn. And last but not least, the fearless Gail Smith. Can you just a very brief introduction of your name and where you are?
Hi, my name is Gail Smith. I'm at Marsview Healthcare Center in Morristown, New Jersey.
Awesome. And so now we're going to ask Haley to play a video that community engagement developed with residents across the state.
Thanks, and I'm just going to reshare my screen. And I will just let me know if you're seeing this video. Oh, and actually, I'm sorry. Let me reshare and make sure I'm sharing with sound. Yeah, we should be all set.
Awesome. We could see it. And if you could just make it bigger because we can see the whole YouTube page.
Yes,
awesome.
Will do.
Awesome, Haley. Thank you so much. You'll recognize some of those people in that video. They're part of the CEP team, the community engagement team. And Martha has the best hats always, is what I'm realizing watching that video and seeing her hat right now. So just to give a very brief kind of introduction of the program, is what I wanted to talk to everybody about is this program is about 1.5 years old. And we have really worked hard to create a program that's led by residents. It really also speaks to the evolution of the New Jersey's long-term care ombudsman over the past 5 years, which has enhanced its investigative arm, which is more reactive to people's issues and concerns, whether those are residents or loved ones or even staff members, into building a more proactive program. That's the resident experience program. There's the certified volunteer advocacy program, which does a lot of incredible work for residents. And then also us, which is resident-driven community engagement. It really is built upon the idea that residents know what they need, they want, and they deserve. We work with residents across the state to build community, amplify the voices of residents, and then support them in advocating for lasting change in long-term care. And that happens both within facilities and across the state. Now, we're going to talk about that in more detail, each of the residents. And just really, residents are an integral part of the CEP. We wouldn't exist without them. And while there might be only Tati and I who are paid staff, we have at least a dozen and often more residents who are actively involved at any given time in making change, not only in their facilities, but across the state. And in the beginning of the program, my wonderful leader of the Ombudsman program, Lori Brewer, would kind of like, her eyes would cross when they would ask, what does the community engagement program look like? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know yet. We're just going to build that as we go. And I think what we've built and what we continue to build is really exciting, and really look forward to sharing this with all of you. And I just also want to acknowledge, as we go through, there's one resident who wasn't able to make it today. Her name is Stacy Moore, and I'll be kind of sharing the work that she was going to share towards the end. But we are going to start with the very first member of the community engagement team besides me, and that's Ray DeFrancisco. And he's going to really talk about changing the dynamic from connection to collaboration. Ray, take it away.
So I'm going to be the one who's going to just make you look at 2 charts in a little bit, not yet. And that's all we're going to bog you down with as far as charts are concerned. So I'm going to apologize for making you do it now. Yes, Eliz and I have been on this journey together from pretty much the beginning. And one thing that she and her team has done is really created a community. But I will say something more is they are my extended family now, right? When I think of Eliz and Todd and Gail and Glenn and, all the other people who work with this group, we are a family. And that really changes the dynamic. Because what we've really found is, this sounds so contrite every time I say it, but knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
And the way administration controls us is they control all the rules. They control what they think we know, right? They control what we eat, who we talk to. And one thing they don't like is they don't like us to share knowledge. So they don't want us to know our residents' rights, right? They don't want to know what a social worker's job really is supposed to be, not what they say it's supposed to be. So what we've done is this group educates us, and then we educate the other residents, right, about what their rights are and what they can expect. We also debunk urban legends, as I call them, right? Well, that's the way it happens. But why? because that's the way it happens. Is that legally why it has to happen that way? No. And then we go through this whole thing. When you get down to it, some people don't know where some of these rules or regulations supposedly have come from, and they're not true. So here again, facts matter. And then I call them fake regulations. One time my favorite thing was when they were talking about our smoking regulations here. And they were like, oh, well, wait until the state comes in and goes searching through your room to see if there's a lighter there. See what happens to you then. And we're like, really? Like the state's going to come and go through my room because they want to find a lighter? Or, that's a HIPAA violation. Well, yeah, no, it's not. So we sometimes say, guess what? Prove it to me, right? Because we feel with this organization that we have the knowledge to know better. And we also have people who stand up for us, which is each other and the CEP program, and of course, the overall ombudsman organization. So that's really what it's about. And it's about shifting the dynamic. And we're not saying that we're in control, but there is a certain harmony that needs to work to make this a very productive community. One phrase we've been using recently is we're going to do a pilot program here next week, and it's called Residents' Rights, your roadmap to a better long-term care facility community, right? These shouldn't be regulations that don't live. They should be guiding principles that help us build a stronger community, not a way to cause dissension and fighting, but it's just the way that things should be. So could I have my first slide? So what I tried to map out and just is, how does it traditionally work? We have our nursing home administration and staff, they sit above us. They have the residents, and a lot of facilities don't like us to talk to each other. Some places don't want you to have meetings, and they don't facilitate kind of, I'm going to say, residents organizing, right? We sometimes use the union model where we can come together and we have a voice, and we have a stronger voice when 60 of us go to administration rather than one. So the first thing we do is really start to build community, and that's new resident council, making resident council productive, right? Making sure people are heard internally, and then we break down the walls. And then what we try to do also is, instead of the ombudsman having to go and talk to the administration for us, say, hey, sometimes, which we shouldn't have to do, but have the ombudsman standing next to you. So the administration will take note of what you're saying and really respect you more. So sometimes we use them to they used to kind of get in the middle between residents and the administration, but we say that's really not a healthy dynamic, because if they're listening to us, right, then we should need the ombudsman here. But one thing this group has really done for me is, and we can go to the next slide, is broken down the walls between different facilities. And it was really interesting. Every other week, we have a meeting with leaders in different nursing homes from all over the state. And it's amazing the challenges we face that are similar to each other. And so it's so great, because a lot of times administration wants you to think that you're crazy. Oh, that's unique. It's just you. It's your problem. You're wrong. Well, when you talk to other people in other facilities, then you can say, hey, guess what? It's not me. It's a broader problem across facilities. So that's another shared knowledge, shared wisdom. We talk about how we solved it, how we deal with difficult situations and bring it back. And also, I've sat in resident council with Martha there, and I'll go, we're not the first people who have this problem. or we have been complaining about one of our transportation companies quite a bit, and they're like, oh, they're the best, they're this, they're that. And so the state was in, and they finally got the head of customer service for this transportation company to come out and talk to us. And the first thing I said, look you are our worst transportation company. Everyone here knows if we're going with you, it's going to be stressful, and you're the worst. And the woman said, I've never heard anything like that from anyone else. Right? Lo and behold, I'm on one of these calls, and I bring them up, and Gail raises her hand, and she's like, we're going through the same thing. And then last week, one of the things that this team has started doing is we have meetings now once a month with the volunteer ombudsman, and may have a topic we talk about. And the topic came up from one of the volunteer ombudsman about this same company. It's like, yeah, well, I guess they're not perfect, right? So we do have a voice. It's an important voice. And this shifts the dynamic in this graphic, you really see where the residents, we're going to use the green nursing home on the left-hand side, the residents work together. We don't always agree, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree, but we're still talking to each other. And then we can go to the administration as a whole unit, right? Or singly, and feel comfortable there. And then we know we have the support of the ombudsman, really is our foundation underneath. And then we've got our partners in the other nursing homes that we can share ideas with, gain experiences with, and really go to the administration as a unified voice.
That's awesome, Ray. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And speaking of voices, we're going to pass it over to your prom date, Miss Martha, who's going to talk a little bit about how one of the critical things that happen is really supporting, amplifying, and raising the voices of residents.
Well, I find one of the things that raises the voices of the residents is when they engage more in the activities, in the meetings that we have with the kitchen staff, or the meetings that we have with the nurses and the aides. They need to be involved, and most of the time they are. And getting involved with the activities, Sophia is in charge of the activities. And she usually finds different things for different people to do. Now, she made me director of making cards, making birthday cards, because I'm good at crafts. So every month she gives me a list with the names of people that have birthdays in that month. And I make cards. I find out personal things about them, and I incorporate them into the cards. And that is, for me, it's a very good thing. I feel very good about doing that. And she also asked me if I would be the director of the knitting class, because I knit all the time. So I said yes. And recently, this past October, because it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we had, before the October, the month before, we made scarves and we made hats, and they all came out really nice. And they had them up here in the lobby. But then at the 30th or the 31st, Sophia gathered them all together, and we donated them for the breast cancer awareness over at Princeton Medical Center. And just getting people involved to do a lot of things, it helps them forget their problems and get them speaking to each other without fighting.
You want to talk about how we suckered you into getting involved with resident council and how it was different at your last location?
Yeah, well, the last location I was at, the residents were really fearful they figured there would be repercussion of them saying anything. So most of them, either they didn't come or they came and they didn't say anything. So when I came here and I saw how they ran the meetings here, and Ray talked me into coming, and things were a lot different. And there were more people at the meetings and people spoke up.
Yeah, also, Miss Martha is totally underselling her tenacity in stuff done. So Miss Martha, I have a question for you. Do you often accept no as an answer?
No. No.
Yeah, this sweet old lady bit that she plays, it works well for her, but we know the real person behind it.
I'm muted. I can see that. I said, absolutely. This is, you think about desert island people, like, like when you're places, I want Miss Martha. I want everybody on this team to be on my desert island, but Miss Martha is the one you send in when things get pretty rough. And now speaking of that, when you were talking about birthday cards, I want to bring to the fore another person who plays a similar role in that way, in both the bringing joy and beauty through crafts and doesn't take no for an answer easily. Gail, can you talk to us about the importance of understanding residents' rights and documentation?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd been vice president of the Residents Council for 3.5 years when I met Liz and the group and found out that there were a lot of rights that we have on the council, for one thing, as well as throughout every resident's rights. But for the council, I didn't know that the minutes, for example, should be reviewed and accepted or not accepted if they weren't accurate, and that they could be corrected. I'd never seen the minutes before, and they should also be displayed for all the residents to have available to them. I'm still fighting to get that. I'm still fighting to get them to put the residents' names on the minutes, and as well as they're just picking and choosing which things they want to report. They write down all the things administration says about how good of a job they're doing, and yet they don't write down the residents' complaints. And then obviously they don't follow through on them either. So documentation is so important. I want to be able to follow up. I want to see if the residents are getting any satisfaction. Do I need to direct them somewhere else? Who could they call upon? Their social worker or their nurses, or go back to administration? And none of that's being done here. When it came to the Department of Health coming to do the yearly survey, which it was 2 years in the summer, they put up signs all over the building to please come visit them if anyone wanted to talk. And they were so busy, they had to stop people from coming. There were so many issues that they wanted to bring up. They did call the Residents Council together, and I brought this little subcommittee with me, and she asked us questions for half an hour. Everyone piped up and shared their experiences and difficulties. And then she said, is there anything else? And I opened a folder that had 7 written pages of open issues, old business that had not been addressed for up to a year. And she was very interested in that. They sent a team leader to speak to me again. One of our issues was low staffing. In the beginning of the year, our company decided, is this too much? our company decided to drop one of our agencies that hires our CNAs. Because it was the most expensive company. And we went to half the amount of people we needed some days. So I was discussing that with the Department of Health, and I said, "Do you know why we have low staffing?" And she's like, "No, we'll have to investigate that." I said, "Oh no, I can tell you why, because the CNAs spoke about it. They were given the opportunity to become full-time employees or to switch agencies for less money, both of them. And only one person I know of switched agencies. But I explained that to her, and within a couple of weeks, we found out that our nursing home was shut down for business. We were not allowed to bring in any more new residents unless they paid a fine every single day for every single person. I think there was also another fine for the fact that they were closed, and it worked for 2 months. And then we immediately, miraculously, somehow, we had full staff every single day. And they reopened. Unfortunately, now it's falling off again. I don't know what they're telling people. Just say yes, and if you have to call out and not come, it's okay with us.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, that what Gail did in that facility, right, with the support of other residents and with the program was affect that change. That's the example of how it's just the partnership is so critical initially with the ombudsman program where CEP is housed and the residents, and then finding that within the facilities, because there are some facilities that do that well and are also improving. Thanks so much, Gail. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah, with accurate minutes, which I don't have yet, but with emails, they were very interested in what I could produce in emails that went to administration requesting things. They were even very interested to find out that while they were in the building, they were making repairs that I'd been waiting 6, 8 months for. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to build on that, based on Gail's work with the Department of Health there, we're starting a new program and new trainings around working on this documentation piece, whether it's in the minutes or in official grievance policies and like grievance procedures, and also finding emails so you can send things that there's a documented trail of communication, right? Accountability can be a bad word, but also accountability is just how we take responsibility for the actions that we're ultimately responsible for. So Gail, thank you so much. And we're going to pass this along to Glenn Osborne, and he's going to talk about looking for the helpers and the troublemakers when you're trying to create a team of resident advocates. Take it away, Glenn.
And Glenn, it looks like you are muted.
Thank you. And that says it in a nutshell. As a resident council president for over 6.5 years, it's your responsibility to build a resident coalition or team, people who have been through troubles, and your job to communicate with each and every resident in your facility to understand their needs. And as Gail and Ray and Martha have done to help build their teams. And many times the staff, all the way from the CNA up to the CEO, will say that you're nothing but a troublemaker. Well, that's a compliment. It may be hard to hear at first, but after a while you realize you're doing your job. You're helping to voice the concerns of many residents who are experiencing the same issues. And I went as far as contacting our local state senators and congressmen and agencies like the VFW and others disabled American veterans, to let them know what's going on in a facility, to get as much help as you can possibly get, so they can help you be a better advocate and they advocate for your needs. Even as far as if necessary, if they're being sponsored or receiving financial support from the Veterans Administration, contact them also. You must make your voice heard. As you are a person, you have the rights, the resident rights to be heard. And having an organization like the CEP and Elizabeth's team really makes a difference. It gives you empowerment and strength to voice your opinion. And yes, many residents are afraid to voice their opinion. That's why they'll tell you what's going on, and you can be their spokesperson. So there is a shortage of staff. During the time for 2 years I was on the governor's task force, there was many surveys conducted. It was realized over the next 5 years, so it'll be at least a 5% decrease in staffing, nursing staffing directly, CNAs, and as high as a 12 or 15% increase in residents who will be registering for long-term care, community support, and housing. So there's an imbalance here, and we need to have better training and more training, and also training that includes soft rules, things that are not happening are being taught. They're teaching them the basics, but they're not teaching them the attitude or the care of the residents. They have served this country, they have served the community, and they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, something that sometimes is neglected all the way up to the CEO. The CEO has to present the proper care and support attitude to the residents, let it filter down. So I hope this helps understand. But being a troublemaker is a compliment in my world, and I've been called that for years because I will voice the opinion of all residents. There's so many times when, over the weekends especially, we only have one CNA for 24 acute care residents who cannot move, or half of them cannot even speak, and they need additional help. And one resident, one CNA is not gonna help us get through, and then it is relied upon the next shift to take care of them because they are in dire need of basic AM and PM care. So thank you for listening.
Glenn, it's always a pleasure to listen to you. I am going to step in briefly to talk about a project that we were involved in. This is what Stacy was going to talk about. And then we're going to go to some questions that are in the chat, and then to give residents an opportunity to answer some of those questions. And if anybody else has questions too. So Stacy Moore is a resident of a facility up in North Jersey. And I'm sure if anybody on this call has any familiarity with nursing homes, you all know what what PNA is, personal needs allowance. In New Jersey, it is woefully low. It is $50 a month, which is, I'm just going to ask for some residents on the panel to say, is $50 a month enough for your PNA allowance? No way, right? So with that, for those who aren't familiar, that's an amount of money that they have to use for all expenses that are not provided by the facility. Clothes, any extra food to supplement the less than appetizing food that they often receive at facilities, crafting supplies, if they ever want to get a gift. Kim in South Carolina is saying they get $30 a month in P&A. Also, even worse. So residents got together and Stacy led this effort where she reached out to her local legislators, and they drafted a bill that was introduced in February of this year. Since that time, through a coordinated effort, again, led by residents that the Ombudsman has provided by giving technical support, getting that information out to residents across the state so they could do advocacy, whether that's writing petitions or calling into specific legislators. That has happened. It's now gone through 2 committees, and 1 committee in the Assembly and 1 committee in the Senate. It's moving forward. That will increase the P&A from $50 a month to $140 a month, with an additional cost of living increase that will happen every year. Again, this is really an important issue, again, led by residents. This wasn't something that originated in our office, but the residents spoke to us about issues that they felt were important. So this has to do with the documentation stuff that Gail talking about. This is why we're doing trainings around documenting in resident advocacy, like training residents about how to be advocates. And that the P&A is another example of that. That was a very brief overview, in part because I have no doubt you all would rather hear from residents than from me. And I'm going to bring a question from the chat that I think that you all might be interested, that you've all touched on a little bit, but I think it would be great for people to hear more from you, is that often people talk to, what it says is, this is from Chris. I found that residents in bad facilities are sometimes afraid and isolated, and that they view leadership, resident council leadership as adversaries. Do residents have any advice on how to handle these types of cases and build bridges to like isolated residents, those residents who feel like, I don't want to go to a resident council because just the same stuff over and over again? Or, and I'll just add in a piece here from another question about retaliation and the fear of speaking up because of those reasons.
I'll start. Is yes, people have fear. I think one big thing is, we used to have our resident council meetings where the head of nursing would come and, he'd flirt with the old president. Nothing would ever happen. So I think the first thing we tried to do is get things to happen, right? Even if they were small things. So people could start believing that we were achieving something. And then, they already don't like me. So I'll bring up a subject that people want brought up because I can't go down any lower on their hit list. That's my take on it.
And I think also they always want to close the doors and only have the residents and the people that are in charge. I think they should let a family member of each person, if they want to come, so they could be in the meeting, because they need to hear what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, Liz, do you want to talk about the notion of family councils?
Yeah, there have actually been a couple of questions about family councils. That's something that we also work on. We started with our focus on residents, I think hopefully at this point for obvious reasons. But we're working closely with a few family members. It tends to be difficult to find time for family members for them to kind of really do a family council. So we're kind of also looking at different models and ways they can be helpful. And as to the question, I think I saw somebody come in there, like families are absolutely welcome as long as the residents agree to it, right? That's the only question. We've had some facilities where residents didn't want family members in there because the family members were kind of, instead of looking at this idea of partnership and collaboration, there was some element of taking over. but that's not a common thing. And again, that's one of the ways that we could be supportive. Collaboration is actually not something that comes naturally in our society. I think we've noticed, like, sometimes it's collaboration, particularly when not everybody has the same idea. What is
Well,
it? Yeah.
we've had this last week where they did a Thanksgiving meal for the families to do a meet and greet with the staff, and told the residents if their families weren't coming, they couldn't go to the dinner. And I wasn't, as the president or the vice president, weren't invited. It was like, don't you think you would invite us to meet with the staff and the president and vice president of resident council? Didn't even cross their minds that they should do it. Now, I ended up getting invited, but that was at the last minute. But, you know, they just don't think that way. And they don't want us, they don't want it to happen.
Yeah, right. Like, this is always one of the issues. The more division that there is, the more people feel like they're separated and don't have anything in common with others, the easier it is to get what you want to get done. Right? Like, building that community and building collaboration is really essential. And I just want to come back just to see if Gail or Glenn wanted to say anything about the idea of retaliation and what their experience has been, either personally or seeing other people not wanting to reach out. And just to be very clear, like, I say this all the time, I don't think I've said it yet, it's like, this is amazingly clear. I think within the Ombudsman's office, we see this regularly, the kind of the subtle forms of retaliation that can happen for residents when they speak out or they involve the Ombudsman's office. Did you?
Wait. Yes. There was a time when I wasn't allowed to eat, and I was being fed through a feeding tube to my trigonology. And I kept fighting with them, and they kept saying I couldn't swallow. So I finally had an independent test done at the VA, and I passed every level of a swallow test, so the facility couldn't deny me that test anymore.
Yeah, that was a months-long effort to get Glenn so he could enjoy his food. And now the food is, you actually say the food is pretty good at your facility, right? Kind of. Gail, did you want to say anything to that?
Give me something more specific on
Just around retaliation, like in your facility in particular, like how it inhibits people.
It's happening to me all the time, because I'm very outspoken, not as the vice president, but as a resident in general. And so the little mischief makers, you know, they have access to our rooms and all our private things. And there's no locks on the doors. There's no way to keep anyone out or watch. And they steal things and they disturb things, and they have a noise riot outside my door because I like a quiet environment. And to retaliate against me one time because the CNA was lying to my roommate. They like lies like, the doctor said you have to go to sleep at 6:30 and not do another thing. And that's not been her habit for 91 years. She has not lived like that. So that night at 11:15, there was a noise riot outside my door. I already had my earplugs in because some of us have to live with earplugs. Some people who've never taken sleeping pills their whole life live here on sleeping pills at night to just get some sound sleep. It's not an easy place to live. It's difficult.
Yeah. I'm mindful of the time, Haley. And I know that there's some housekeeping things that have to end. I want to make sure that people have an opportunity to ask questions. I'll put in my contact information in the chat, and it can be shared elsewhere if people from other states are interested in doing something similar to community engagement. All of us are happy to talk to you. In case it's not obvious, you don't get me without getting residents. You don't get Toddy without getting a bunch of residents. Like we're a package deal in all of the work that we do. And I know I saw something in the chat about, I know that there's yeah, go ahead, Haley.
No, go ahead, please address what you were gonna say.
I just want to make sure that I'm addressing the questions that we can answer. In the chat, there are some questions that are also important, but not something that community engagement deals with specifically. There's something about short staffing and poor quality staffing, and that owners take so much money from the facility. So how do we address that issue? In New Jersey, we have some legislation around transparency. Basically, we think one of the ways to address any sort of siphoning or funneling of money into the director's pockets versus care be prevented or at least minimized by if there was transparency, if people knew where all the money went. So that's legislation that when it starts moving forward, residents will be engaging with. I think that there's a lot of questions about family councils and resident councils. I think partnership between family councils and resident councils is awesome. Even if that family council is tiny, like partnering, I will say that in my experience, I think I've seen it done successfully in some places, but not others, where families really should be taking the back seat to residents in resident councils, meaning the residents have to lead that effort. So identifying how to do that in a way that works for your facility is really important, but it happens for any number of reasons that family members who are at a resident council are also often vocal, and because of the way that they often can talk over residents, and we don't want to encourage that, right? We want to make sure that everybody's walking together. If that means everybody has to slow down, then everybody has to slow down, right? The idea is, right, there's the proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to actually achieve change, you go together and you go slower. It's not the proverb, I'm pretty sure, but it's close. I don't know if there's any other questions that anybody else sees that we can take, or anybody. I'd love to give the residents an opportunity to say closing words, if that works, Haley.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, since I started, I'll start finishing it off. I can't thank you enough for getting on this call. Right? Hearing our story, I wish we could get more politicians to listen to this story, bring the humanity to it. That's what the video was really about for us, is, what goes on behind these walls, people don't know. And the more light you shine on it, the more horrified they really are of what it's really like. So just the sheer fact that you're here being an advocate, share our stories, send the link out to our video, to your friends and your family, to your pastors. Just get the word out there and shed the light on what we go through. And that alone will just bring about change. I don't know. Come on, Martha.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Get the word out there. Many people don't have a clue of what goes on in here. No idea. And then when they're shocked when they find out.
People just forget that you guys are people. Like, you're not
Right.
just residents. You aren't always just living
Well,
in a facility. You are
and
people with lives.
and the administration sometimes treats us like we're second-class citizens.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, the dishwasher broke again, and we got dinner on foam plates, and the dinner was ice cold. Well, I stopped the head of nursing and I said, well, did you know? Yes. Why didn't you bother to tell us? You could have at least just said, hey, it's a one-time deal, just this meal. We're sorry about it. But hey, I guess we don't deserve that same level of respect that I guess a person on the outside does.
Mhm.
Gail?
There definitely is hope. I feel much more hopeful. I was burnt out from my council. My president has been very sick and not helpful. He's never led any efforts in gathering information or anything, whereas I gather information daily, and it was overwhelming, and the things weren't working with administration. So
Mm.
this group has really helped me, especially Liz, to center my focus and to be encouraged. We're in a battle here. The ones who want to see improvements are battling against administration and even other residents who are so afraid of retaliation.
Mhm.
This is my home. I better not speak up. I might get kicked out. They're genuinely afraid of being asked to leave or shown the door, really. And I don't think it's that bad, but we have to speak up. And to have other ombudsmen on our sides is so helpful. To have this group is so helpful because, like Ray said before, we found out each other are going through the same things. And with God's help, we're getting through a lot of things. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Gail. Glenn, do you have any final words?
No, thank you at this time.
Okay, thanks so much, Glenn. And I just want to say, I hope that there are people on this call that other residents that work with us who weren't there. Like I know that John and Rob are out there somewhere. I just want to say, I just fully expect you all to leave this program being wildly jealous of what I get to do every day and who I get to work with. It's really incredible stuff. We're happy to talk to whoever. I'll put my email in the chat. And Paula, I just want to say, I just moved back from Ohio. So again, thank you all for being here. And what I will tell you, what you should be leaving here is go find residents to talk to, go find residents to help you figure out what you need to do to make the change happen. All they need is our support to amplify their voice. That's it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz. And thank you to all of you who joined us today. I do have a couple slides that I just want to end off with. But there was something that Ray said at the beginning of the program that was just so striking to me. And it was just that they don't like when we share information. And that is what you guys are doing. And your program is so powerful and so important. And it speaks to, the power of resident councils and family councils. And so much of my job is speaking to other advocates or ombudsmen or legislators, but to hear from residents is the best part of my job. It's really just so powerful, and you speaking up for yourselves is so important. You do have a voice, and so I hope everyone on this call remembers that. I'm just going to share a couple of slides. I just have a couple of housekeeping things. Here we go. So please join us for our December webinar, Overbilling and Killing, an examination of the skilled nursing industry is the title of a new study that came out on the nursing homes manipulation of the reimbursement system to maximize profits. We are going to have the authors of that study discussing their paper and their findings, and that should be a really, really interesting program. That will be on December 17th at 1:00 p.m. And the registration link is there at the bottom. You can also find the registration link on our website under events. And then lastly, just head to Nursing Home 401 for all different resources. I'll have the video of today's program posted by the end of this week. And I will also link to the video that we've played at the beginning of this so that you can share that video just itself. So if you don't want to share the full hour program with your network, but please share that video. It's really powerful. You can find the staffing levels in your state or community at our staffing data page. We will again be posting the Q2 2024 staffing numbers shortly. Please follow us on Instagram. That's where we share a lot of updates about upcoming programs, different resources that we're putting out, and more. And then obviously our learning center is always there. We have fact sheets on key nursing home standards, assisted living guides, family empowerment resources. I did put that our family empowerment resources link in the chat. But if you missed it, just head to our website. We have so many different resources for family councils and resident councils. So please check those out. And yeah, I think that's all for today. And again, thank you guys so much. Please make sure that you are signed up for LTCCC resources straight to your email. Just a really easy way to keep up with different things that we're putting out. And again, thank you so much.
On Haley's behalf, I'll just feel like a lot of our work is made possible, and our education is because of all the work that LTCCC does. They rock.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for everyone for joining us today, and have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye all. Thanks.